How about Shemay Shash? Barakatah Yahweh Shah. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
Because all the blessings that we're going to get, which is entailing the kingdom of heaven. Isaiah the 60th chapter, I'm going to start at the 10th verse and read on down. It says, and the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. So the sons of strangers, that's talking about the actual strangers, the other nations, shall build up thy walls. We're going to have them in slavery. So they're going to be building the kingdom of heaven, because we're not building nothing. We're not lifting a hand to move nothing. It says, for in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee. Therefore thy gates shall be open continually, they shall not be shut day nor night, that men may bring unto thee the forces of the Gentiles. That's talking about the actual Gentiles. We're going to take all of their substance, and that their kings may be brought.
And the sons of strangers shall build up thy walls, and their kings shall minister unto thee. For in my wrath I smote thee, but in my favor have I had mercy on thee.
Barakatah Yahweh Shah. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh. Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
For the nation and kingdom that will not serve thee shall perish, yea, those nations shall be utterly wasted. Verse 13. And the glory of Lebanon shall come unto thee, the fir tree, the pine tree, the box together to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I will make the place of my feet glorious. So the land of Israel, the land of Jerusalem, is going to be made glorious. It's going to be made glorious once again. The kingdom is going to be built up. We had a taste of that during the time of Solomon's reign, which was for about 40 years. Verse 14, the sons also of them that afflicted thee shall come bending unto thee, and they that despise thee shall bow themselves down at the soles of thy feet. And they shall call thee the city of the Lord. The word Zion means monument, the monument of the Holy One of Israel. Whereas thou hast been forsaken and hated, so that no man went through thee, I will make thee an eternal excellency, a joy of many generations. Thou shalt also suck the milk of the Gentiles, and shall suck the breasts of kings, meaning we're going to take all their substance. And thou shalt know that I am the Lord thy power, the Lord and thy Savior and thy Redeemer, the mighty one of Jacob. For brass I will bring thee gold, and for iron I will bring thee silver, and for wood brass, and for stones iron. And I will make thy officers peace, and thine exactors righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation, and thy gates praise. The sun shall no more thy light by day, neither for brightness shall the moon give light unto thee, but the Lord shall be unto thee an everlasting light, and the power thy glory. The sun shall no more go down, meaning our kingdom is not going to go down. In other words, once we get back in power, we're going to be in power forever. The sun is never going to go down on our kingdom again. The sun is never going to set on our kingdom. We're going to always shine, and we're going to always be in that glory once we get into the kingdom of heaven. There's no more going back into slavery under the other nations. Esau's not going to rise back up and put us in captivity. Ham, Japheth, Ishmael, none of the other nations are going to rise up and take us down ever again. When we get on top this time, we're going to remain on top. Neither shall thy moon withdraw itself, for the Lord shall be thine everlasting light, and the days of thy mourning shall be ended. So no more mourning, no more crying, no more vexation of spirit, no more weeping, no more hopelessness because of the condition that we're in as Israelites right now. Verse 21, thy people also shall be all righteous, they shall inherit the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. Verse 22, a little one shall become 1,000. This is in the kingdom. So what is this talking about? We're going to have sex. Again, like I said, the 2/3 that are going to pass in this destruction, the 2/3 are going to come back through the 1/3 that make it. The Lord said, 2/3 shall be cut off and die, and the third will I bring through the fire. It says, a little one shall become 1,000, and a small one a strong nation. I, the Lord, will hasten it in his time.
All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakadash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word and truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh Bashem Al Shah, pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shah. All right. So going into another, morning news and prophecy. All right. And what we're seeing is nothing but escalation so far. All right. Dealing with this war. And we know this war is going to have a ripple effect. Okay. That's going to bring about these other prophecies, man. And that's going to go into some of the things that we're going to go into today. Okay. Because as this thing escalate, is having a global effect. Okay. Because what we're seeing now, with what's going on, all right, America, has decided to strike, all right, Iran's, biggest oil field. Okay. And that escalates now to where Iran is beginning to attack, all right, the oil infrastructure of these Gulf Arab nations. Okay. So it's beyond, all right, just the Strait of Hormuz being closed. Okay. What's being attacked now is these Gulf nations, their abilities, okay, to refine and produce oil. Okay. And that's a whole nother crisis. That's another level of crisis within itself. So the Lord is allowing, these nations to really dismantle each other, man. The Lord is undoing these nations, man. He's allowing these nations to begin to cancel each other out. Okay. Because the Lord, the Heavenly Father, he's finna send Yahweh Shah back, man. Okay, to conquer the earth in righteousness, man. You see, we have to think in the spirit because these oil fields are not going to be needed in our kingdom. Okay, so the destruction of them, the Lord has already started the demolition on this age, on this world. Okay, this war is going to do a lot of demolition, okay, of the infrastructure of this current world. Okay, those nukes going to clear out, all right, a lot of this infrastructure. Then the earth rolling to and fro, shaking. Okay, so the Lord is beginning, all right, to demolish this current age, and it's just the beginning. This light compared to what's coming, and these things gonna continue to escalate. Okay, and just as when you get talks of, some type of deal or some type of ceasefire, some type of agreement, where the Lord allows particular things happen, all right, for this thing to escalate. Okay, because what you just had dealing with Iran, okay, the small hats, killed, all right, a leader, all right, this minister, all right, this secretary minister, all right, I think his name was Johnny, all right, this Iranian minister of security, okay, and he was a beloved man, he was known, all right, for not only, all right, military, but also he was a diplomat. And they say he will be the only man that will be willing to talk directly to America, at some point to try to strike some deal towards, towards later on in the war. Okay. But what the small hats did, they killed them. See, the small hats, they on their job, which is to drag, these nations to war, beginning with America. So the small hats, they're on their job. Okay, so the small hats, they assassinated, another top guy in Iran, and he was one of the ones that was what they call was moderate. He wasn't as extreme, okay, as the rest of the Iranian leaders. So they killed the one guy that would entertain, okay, sitting down with America in the future to try to hammer out some type of deal, okay. But the small hats, they assassinated. So they just did what? Created more escalation. Okay. And then, all right, the West, all right, America and the small hats, they attacked, okay, Iran's oil infrastructure. Okay. What you call Cog Island. There's been the talks lately. Okay. So they attacked it. And now Iran has retaliated and destroyed, infrastructure in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Okay. And Qatar dealing with this liquid natural gas, that's going to play a major effect, because it's that natural gas that, is used for, your heating your homes, the stoves, okay, your hot water, and, these things, petroleum, propane, okay, this liquid natural gas, LNG, okay, and Qatar is the biggest producer there in the world, okay. So now what we're seeing is escalation, nothing but escalation. The Lord's not allowing this thing to simmer down. Okay? You're going into 3 weeks. You see? And it's been nothing but escalation. So let's deal with some prophecy. Then we'll go into a few videos, man. Okay, and every day it's gonna inch closer and closer to things getting chaotic, man. Every day is inching closer because people, have this, people are optimistic, okay, because America has dealt with high gas prices before. Okay. But it's looking like, this thing is going to go out of control. It's going to be prices never seen. Okay. Because if this keeps going, this is going to go into uncharted territory where people, are trying their best, okay, to be optimistic about this and hoping the war can end any day. You hear people talking, they're hoping that it end any day, but it's doing nothing but escalate, man. Okay. So let's go here to the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, verse 1. So this is the book of Second Ezra, chapter 15, verse 1. It says, Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Shah. Okay? Because prophecy is the theme of the time. You see, everyone's trying to explain what's going on, and you have certain analysts, that we tap into, but they can only go so far. See, prophecy paints the whole picture of everything we see happening, man. That's why, beginning with Elder Apostle Har, the rest of the elder apostles, okay, one of the main things that they pushed us to teach was what? Prophecy, man. Tap into prophecy, man. Because that's the only thing that's matter. This is what people want to hear. What's going to happen next? Okay, this is what's vital. And see, not just you see, if you're just here to just get information, okay, if you haven't repented, if you don't believe in the second coming of Yahweh Shai, you don't believe in Yahweh Bashim Shai, okay, the deliverance of the tribes, the enslavement of these heathens, okay, well, you're wasting your time. If you're just here to get news, you're wasting your time, okay, because now salvation's at hand, judgment is at hand, okay. So just understanding what's going on, okay, and not being repentant, well, you're wasting your time. You might well go enjoy, all right, your few moments left, okay, in this current world, all right. Go enjoy your few moments left in Babylon, or what they call ignorant is bliss. you might as well just be ignorant and be in bliss, man. Okay? Because the Lord is getting ready to bring heavy judgment in the earth, man. This is more than just, because you can go into the wise, and you can go into you know, the uh the rabbit hole of chasing the elites down the rabbit hole, and they did this because of this and that because of that. We can go into and we tap into these things, but more so, the judgment of the Lord is at hand. Okay, so you just want to be hip and you want to know, the latest info, and dealing with, okay, the elites doing this and they did this because of this and that happened because of this. Well, understanding prophecy sums everything up. Okay, because that's what's unfolding in prophecy, man. At least they're just part of the Lord's prophecy, man. Okay, it says, and call them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Okay, so everything that's written in these scriptures to happen will happen. This is a guarantee. Okay, and that's why we can say these things boldly. Okay, that these things are guaranteed. The prophecies will happen. Okay, and they're happening, man. Okay, we can say boldly. We don't care what Turkey's stance is today. Eventually, they're going to side with Russia and Iran. Okay, and I just happened to watch an old video the other day, but before this war started, and Colonel McGregor was talking about how when you had those riots in Iran, when this thing first started, dealing with those riots in Iran, okay, and they were trying to cause civil unrest in Iran. Well, you had uh, the CIA tried to send, all right, those Kurdish mercenaries into Iran, okay, but Iran and Turkey, all right, they quailed, all right, they joined together, okay, and they quailed those Kurdish troops from invading Iran and causing more of unrest during the time before the war, when you had all these talks about the riots in Iran. Okay, so Iran and Turkey, they collaborated, to shut down those Kurds. Okay, and ever since then they've been sharing intelligence, man. Okay, but even if none of those things happen, the Lord shows us things to show that He is. Okay, He always giving us faith boosts, man. We're watching. One beautiful thing about watching, man, the Lord just constantly dropping gems and nuggets of faith boosters. As we watch these things unfold, as we watch these things happen. Okay, but even if none of those things happen, just the fact that the scriptures say that Turkey is going to side with, okay, Russia and Iran, well, that's all we need to know is written. Okay, the fact that the scriptures say that America, all right, the hammer of the earth is going to be cut asunder. Well, it doesn't matter about America's military might. Okay, the scriptures say they're going to be broken and cut asunder. Okay, the scriptures say that their men are going to be foreborn to fight, which is we're constantly seeing it. Okay, niggas is trying to niggas is trying to quit. American military is already trying to quit. You got talks of uh, mutiny. Okay, amongst these aircraft carriers, and we'll get into that. Well, that's all prophecy, man. So everything that's written, okay, in this paper, because this the word of a king, and what we always get into Ecclesiastes 8:4. Okay, where the word of a king there is power, and who can say what doest thou? Okay, so these things have been written in paper in the scriptures, and they're all right, being found faithful and true as we speak real time. It said, "Fear not the imagination against thee, least let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee." Okay, so there was a time, especially before major things started to happen, man, to where, we were just a joke. We were just a running joke, and we still a joke because these things haven't fully set in. You see, people are, a little shaken. All right, but people are still able to go on their day to day. Okay, and things are just going to gradually get worse, and then the Lord can cause an event to just take this thing to another level at any moment. The Lord can cause certain events to happen, whether it's through the leaks, false flag, or whether through, something major escalation in this war that causes a major change, a major shift. Okay, the Lord can cause something, drastic can happen in one moment and take this thing to another level, man. Okay, so the incredulity or people's ability, inability to believe, okay, inability to believe, because incredulity means that you don't even have the ability to believe, because you got to be of the spirit to believe what's written in this book, to really embody the volume of the book, okay, where the Lord has to give you his Holy Spirit, the Rakakwadash, a separate spirit, a pure spirit to understand these things, man. Okay? It said, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, man. There's a lot of people that's going to die in their disbelief. Okay? Because it wasn't given to the masses to believe. Okay? For sure it wasn't given to the heathen, but we know even amongst our people, it wasn't given for the majority of our people to believe, and they're going to die in their unfaithfulness as these things unfold. Okay? But prophecy is walking this place down. Prophecy has walked Esau down. Esau is wrestling with prophecy, man. He's trying to wrestle prophecy off of him, man. He's losing. He's entangled. Okay? Well, I see so much desperation from this nigga, man, because he's wrestling with prophecy, man. It says, behold, said the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. Okay? And this is where we at. We in a time where the Lord is finna unleash sword, famine, death, and destruction all at once, because it's all tied together, man. Okay, war and famine, they go together. War creates the atmosphere for famine. Because in real war, goods don't move back and forth like that. Okay? Shipping and all this transport, no, things don't move back and forth during war. And what they're doing now, the way that they're escalating, it'll be an energy crisis if it keeps going at this level, at this rate. Okay, because now they're destroying the infrastructure. It's one thing to stop the Strait of Hormuz, stop traffic from going to and fro. Okay, but it's another thing to destroy the infrastructure, man. It's a whole nother level of crisis, man. Okay, it says, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole world, but the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled, man. So the Lord, all right, has from the beginning, the Lord set a limit on how much wickedness he would allow. And that's in every kingdom. Every kingdom has a certain point when they get to a certain, all right, level of wickedness, and the Lord brings down even us. Okay, you read the book of First Kings and Second Kings, man. The Lord, he let us get to a certain point of wickedness, man, and then he brought judgment, man. Okay, which was us being exiled. Okay, so the Lord only has, all right, certain tolerance for wickedness, man. And see, and this is the last time he's going to allow wickedness to get out of hand. Okay, this is the last time, and this is why he's getting ready to set up a righteous government, an eternal righteous government in the earth, man. Yahweh Shai, okay, in the first fruit, those 12,000 men, okay, from each tribe of Israel. Okay, the deliverance, you're going to have the rest of the men, women, and children of the 1/3. But the Lord is getting ready to establish a righteous, okay, government in the earth forever. And wickedness will never get this out of pocket, pocket again, man. Okay, so let's go here. I want to get this video first. Okay, let's play this one because, like we said, since Let's go here. Play this one real quick. So what we have as of late, it was yesterday, Iran has begun after, the West killed Al-Ajani, all right, this Iranian uh, Minister of Security. Okay, he's one of their top guys. Okay, beloved. Okay, they had a massive funeral for him. That's another thing too, man. These people that died in Iran, man, the whole nation come out and support their funeral, man. Okay, because you got these clowns over here in America, man. It's a completely different atmosphere too, man. America, the West is just, like the Wali How Bashim Al Shah. He's finna end the rulership of Esau, man. He's finna rule Esau. He's finna end this man's reign. Okay? Because Esau has created such a toxic, wicked, satanic, demonic environment in the earth, man, especially here in the West and America, man. Okay? It makes perfect sense that the Lord's going to turn this place to a desert, man. All right? So let's play this. Okay? Because now they're beginning to attack each other's infrastructure, man. Okay? Let's play this. The oil infrastructure.
Iran has intensified attacks on Gulf nations following the killings of high-profile Iranian leaders and officials.
Iran has launched a new wave of attacks targeting natural gas facilities as well as at least one oil refinery in the Gulf Arab states. Now, this is coming after Israel launched an assault on Iran's South Pars natural gas field. Now, this field is offshore in the Persian Gulf, and Iran shares it with Qatar. But it's incredibly important for the Islamic Republic because 80% of all electricity generated by Iran relies on natural gas. Meanwhile, Iranians use it for heating their homes and cooking food. This is crucial for Iran, particularly as its theocracy is pushed ever closer to the edge by a series of Israeli and American airstrikes that have decimated its military, as well as seen top leaders in the country killed. That's why Iran has retaliated with these attacks on the oil infrastructure, on the natural gas infrastructure. And while the Strait of Hormuz is sort of closed right now because of these Iranian attacks, anything that does this much damage to oil and natural gas fields will mean that after this war is over, whenever that is, it'll take even longer for those supplies to enter the global market, meaning energy prices could remain elevated for some time. And right now, the Gulf Arab states are weighing what to do. We heard from Saudi's foreign minister overnight who said that any trust that had with Iran was gone now. So we don't know if that means that the Gulf Arabs are going to allow the Americans to potentially use their military bases to launch attacks on Iran, or if that could mean the Gulf Arab states engage in combat directly with the Islamic Republic. But all signs point to further escalation in this war that so far shows no signs of stopping.
Nothing but escalation. There's nothing but escalation, man. Okay? And when they get to talking too much about ceasefire, or off ramps, the Lord calls it something else. Okay? Showing you that it's the will, it's the prophecy. All right, prophecy is in the driver's seat, man. Okay, prophecy is fully in the driver's seat of everything that we're seeing happening. All right, so I got another one. I think they live now, but I caught a little bit of it. Let's play a little bit of this one. Okay. Think about it. Yeah.
Then even less, that the president of the United States would go along with that. But this is where we are now. The consequences of the attack on the gas fields, they attacked. Iran responded in a way they said they would respond. So they were warned. You do this, we will do this. Puts us in a world of trouble now. We don't really know. We're going to have an energy crisis. the energy crisis will spill over into a food production crisis. That comes on top of already years of Western nations deliberately destroying agricultural production. I don't know where it goes. I hate to try to predict, but it's only making a bad situation worse. And amazingly,
And like you said, he doesn't know where it goes, but we do. You see, if a brother can post that, St. John chapter 8, verse 12. See, this is what prophecy is vital. Okay? These people are scholars, they went to school, they traveled to all these different countries, they've been ex-military, they got insider information, but see, they're still in the dark when it comes, all right, to the full picture concerning prophecy, man. And like he said, it's going energy crisis is going to turn to a food production crisis, man. War and famine go together. Okay, and we went into the other day how most people during the famine they die of the disease from famine because the immune system is so weak. When you're malnourished like that, man, when you're extremely malnourished, your immune system is weakened. Okay, plus hey, the Lord can just unleash something that's deadly, okay, or the devil unleash something. Either way, okay, it's all of the Lord. You see, but he said he don't, and it's getting foggy to them because no one never thought it would go this far, and he's going to go into. He's going to say it. He's like no one never thought that it would go this far. Okay, the way that these nations are going, you see.
it apart from maybe the Prime Minister of Belgium and then Viktor Orban and Robert Fico, it doesn't seem that any of these officials ever stop and think, well, if we continue this way, we're kind of running off a cliff. So we need to stop and reassess what we're doing and then take some constructive, positive steps to mitigate all the dangers that are coming our way. They're just doubling down. They're saying, pedal to the metal, full speed ahead. I honestly, if somebody told me 5 years ago that this would be happening, I'm already very conspiracy inclined, but I would say no, that just can't be.
Exactly. Alex, it's not just you.
Yeah, so and I say these people have insight. They got these insiders, they got these sources. They travel to these actual places and countries, and they know the inner workings, but they couldn't see this coming, man. Okay, going back to, let's go here. All right, Mr. Brother got it. Mr. Brother nah, GMS all in 144. St. John 8 and 12 said, Then spake Yahushua again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Okay? So we're not in darkness, man. We're following Yahushua. And Yahushua is what the spirit of Yahushua is what the spirit of prophecy. So brother want to post that Revelation 19 and 10. So we're walking in Yahushua. You see, and Yahushua is putting us on all game. See, when you tapped into prophecy, that's the Most High through Yahushua putting us on the game. We know how this play out. We know where this is going. We know Russia and China got to get involved. All these kings of the kings of the East, Ezekiel 38, they got to happen. America turned to a desert. This got to happen. See, they for sure not thinking that far. America being turned to a desert, they for sure not thinking on that type of level, man. Okay, so let's go here to there's another one from the brother. All right. Brother Anah, GMS all in 144, Job 14 and 5. Seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee. Thou has appointed his bounds that he cannot pass. Okay, and this is the devil, Esau Edom. And see, now he's at the very end. He's right there at that bound, at that marker. Because World War III, is the dividing asunder of times. That's when the Lord separates, all right, the kingdom of these heathens ran by Esau and the kingdom of Israel ushered in by Yahushua. Okay, so as this devil has entered into this war, okay, he just stepped into his end. You see, he just began, all right, he just moved the needle concerning his end. Okay, and his dumb ass mind, he thinks that he's from the throw together this new world order, this tack ass new world order, man. Okay, gonna put the C hip in everybody, put 3 billion cameras up, and build 10 million data centers. Okay, some robot traffic cops, and he gonna chill. Nah, man. Okay, the man got this. The Lord got Esau in the war that's gonna end his ass, man. Because he has an appointed bound that he can't pass, and he's getting close to that bound. That's why Most High made this nigga like, look, to put the spirit on BB, okay, to throw America into this war. The nigga, we ain't got that time. Okay, remember, time is not on the side of these devils, man. Okay, so they got to make moves. Okay, they're not operating from a position of comfort. Okay, they're not just they're leasing out in the bunker, just do this, do that, do this, do that. These niggas are scrambling, man. Okay. So let's go here. This is the brother warriors of Yahushua, Revelation 19:10. And I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, see that thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant, all right, and of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahushua, worship the Most High. For the testimony of Yahushua is the spirit of prophecy. Okay, the spirit of prophecy, man. Okay, that's the testimony of Yahushua. And the world don't got the testimony of Yahushua. You see, only a few. You see, only the remnant. Okay, so the Lord has raised up the prophets with the testimony of Yahushua. What's the testimony of prophecy, man? Okay, so we can see the big picture. Everything is lit up for us, man. When we see these moves being made, we know exactly what it is. Okay, and we know what to filter out is irrelevant because it doesn't have anything to do with prophecy, man. Okay, that's why we were saying all this talk about Greenland and Ecuador and all that. No, nigga, you got to go to Iran. Okay, according to prophecy, we were saying that before this started, like all that Greenland and Ecuador and all that old off-brand shit Esau was talking about, man. No, nigga, you gotta go to Iran. Nigga, you got an assignment. All right. And the Lord drugged that nigga over there, man. Okay. And now he tapped into this war and he done. He took the bait. Okay. Esau took the bait, just like Pharaoh. He took the bait. Because why? The Most High made it look sweet. You see? The Most High, if you think Esau was crafty, well, hey, how crafty is the Most High? Okay, because he made it like it was sweet. He made Iran look like it was sweet. Okay? And now this nigga done started something that he can't put the top back on. He done took the top off. Okay? Prophecy is out the bottle. Okay? Hey, that's a topic. Prophecy is out the bottle. You got that saying, the genie is out the bottle. Okay? Well, prophecy is out the bottle, man. Okay? And it says, Ecclesiastes 39:1, it said, but he that giveth his mind, just the brother, so like GMS, Jacob will prevail. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in the prophecies, man. Okay, because it's the only thing that's matter. That's what's piquing people's interest in these times is okay, what's next? Well, the Lord been giving us the game, man. Starting with our apostles and elders and their elders. Okay. The Lord been giving us the game to now. All right. This is common knowledge unto us, man. Okay, so let's go here. I got another one. Let's go to this one. Um, let's go here. So let's play this. So he's speaking on this guy, uh, Alajani. Okay, he's going to speak a little bit on it, but he's going to go into something else. All right, but he's going to speak on what we were speaking on earlier. How this Iranian leader that they killed. Okay, Alajani. He was a moderate. What you call moderate? Okay, which means he wasn't extreme in one way or the other. He was open. For discussion. All right, and he was the only one amongst the ranks of these Iranians that they were saying would be willing, to even talk, okay, to the West about any kind of deal later on down the line, okay. But remember, they off them, about 2 days ago, man. Okay, because the Lord don't want no peace deal, man. Okay, and even if they do conjure up something, some type of off ramp, the Lord gonna put their right back on it, man. Okay, all the way up until the nukes. So while these other prophecies are being fulfilled, this war is going on, while the other prophecies, all right, are going to be fulfilled. So war is still going to be okay, going on. You see. So let's play this.
That they're going to be removing their bases from the country. This is without a doubt. Even if there is some presence, it will be limited, and that just shows this has resulted in the end of the American military empire as well as the American financial empire. And I just want to make a note on what you said, because it's a very important point about Ali Larijani, who was a very important person within Iran. He was the soul of Iran, much loved amongst the Iranian people. He was instrumental in the development of the IRGC. But that being said, right now he didn't have an integral role. He was more of a spokesperson. He was more of an advisor. But you're quite right in saying that by killing him, someone who was a negotiator, and some people think that there is a possibility that they killed him because he could have possibly been amiable to negotiations with the United States of America, and the Israelis don't want negotiations. And so when you take away people who are willing to speak, who are willing to negotiate within the parameters that Iran is demanding because they're winning this war, you then are left with a situation where this may end up in perpetual war. So I think that was an important point as well to know.
We've seen the reports that, gas prices in the U.S., they're up 26% around that number now since the war began. As you mentioned a moment ago, with the attacks on the gas refinery and gas infrastructure in Iran today, and the impacts that's had for Iran and Iraq, we know that the Iranians are going to hit back hard, and Americans are going to feel it at the pump. Everyone should go fill up their cars right now while they still can before the missiles start to fire, I guess. But with that, what is going to be guaranteed a massive increase at the pump, and with Joe Kent, who's going to be going on Tucker Carlson tonight, I think in a few hours' time, and he's going to be probably not, saying anything too crazy, but I mean, within the limits and scope that he can say legally.
And there might be an interview worth watching. The Joe Kent interview with Tucker Carlson. It might be something worth watching, something to look up. For you brothers, that's in tune to these things. It might be an interview worth looking at. Lord willing, I can check it out. Because Joe Kent, so whatever the nigga name, but yeah, he resigned. And see what's happening too, man. Now that America and all these small heads getting their teeth kicked in this war, now everybody got a conscience, man. Now you niggas just embarrassed about this L. Okay, now everybody got a conscience because these small hats in America, okay, getting their teeth kicked in this war, and now everybody want to be, okay, a saint now. Now everybody's a saint. Everybody's a humanitarian now. Nah, you just embarrassed on how it's going. Okay? Let's play this some more.
He's going to be driving a massive wedge in this war effort. How do you think the American public will handle this? I mean, can they sustain this? Can Trump sustain an American public that is, so far gone on this war that there's no chance that any level of propaganda could win them over?
I mean, there's no way. Look, I spend a lot of time in the United States of America. I'm in the US now, and I speak to the average American, and they are struggling. I'd rarely meet an American now who isn't working 2 jobs, who isn't doing long hours. This is before this financial crisis that is coming about. And as you said, just before we came on, oil prices rose to $109. And I speak to a number of financial experts like Simon Dixon, and he basically said that if oil prices go above $115 and remain above $115, you're going to have a situation where they're going to have to do a huge amount of money printing in order to deal with the situation. And as you know, if they were to print a huge amount of money, doing it on the basis that oil prices in the future will reduce. And if they don't reduce, you're going to be in a significant problem. It will break. And if it goes above 160, it just automatically breaks. So never mind the fact that Americans are going to be struggling, and even worse than that, the Europeans and the people from the UK are going to be in a much more worse situation. This is almost karma for the sanctions they placed on countries like Russia and Iran. But that being said, it's going to be a major struggle for Americans. It's going to be a major struggle for everybody. And if it's already at $109, this is before Iran has struck any of the GCC countries or the infrastructure. It's very scary where this could go. And just think about that. The people who are going to be financially benefiting is Trump. He always financially benefits from market turmoil. He's enriching himself while the American public is struggling. And the only thing that's going to happen is when this financial collapse happens, they wanted a regime change in Iran, but in reality, what's going to occur is a regime change in the United States of America. You're going to see, and there's a high likelihood you could end up seeing anarchy. You could end up seeing civil war. You could end up seeing civil unrest, because if the market collapses, if people's savings have no value anymore, if people are not able to afford the basic necessities, people are going to come out. They're going to rebel. They're going to riot. If they're not able to have any gas whatsoever, never mind the prices increasing, which is what's going to happen without a shadow of a doubt, you could end up having regime change in the United States of America. And I do believe the European countries are cognizant of this. And this is why they didn't help Trump when Trump was begging for them to help in the strait. They said no, because they know that things are going to get so bad. You're going to have anarchy in Europe. You're going to possibly have riots in Europe. You're probably going to have regime change in Europe. And the Americans are also going to face the same thing as well.
Well, also, it's just impossible. I mean,
so you hear, like he said, people are already, he said he's in the, see, these foreigners come to America and they find out that America ain't nowhere near how it's marketed to the world, because he said he's come to America, man. He see people, working long hours, 2 jobs, okay, barely getting by. And he said, man, this oil crisis is going to break America's back. And this energy crisis, man, these prices going up, this is going to break Americans back. He said civil unrest, anarchy, that's all in the scriptures. You see, that's all prophecy, man. Okay? So now, all right, these people, these analysts and geopolitical, these social scientists, political scientists, okay, they're starting to see, okay, where this thing is headed, okay, and it all lines up with prophecy, man. A lot of them be right on point with prophecy, man, because prophecy is in the driver's seat. That's the only place it can go, because we see the war only escalate, okay, and this was yesterday morning, so it's been so much that happened since then, because it's so much happened in one day now, okay, that affect these markets, okay, which these markets affect, okay, the economy, okay. So with this energy crisis, man, things are bound to spiral out of control. Okay, because also too, a good thing the brothers to look up. I just started looking at it this morning. But you can just go to Google and you can go to prices of oil today, and then give you the current price of oil. Okay, which right now is at 97. We'll see how it changes as we speak. You see how it changes as we speak. You see, it go up and go down, but mostly it's been going up. It's at 96. All right, $96.94. Okay, and when I started this morning looking at it like at 95 something. Okay, so it's just creeping up. It might drop down a little bit, then it'll jump up. Okay, you see, so it's a good thing to look at this throughout the day. So I'm gonna start checking it. All right. But when he said once it gets around that 115 mark, it's gonna put a lot of pressure on the dollar, man. Okay, especially if they start purchasing oil in yuan and not the dollar. Okay. When the demand of the dollar goes, that's when you can start seeing that hyperinflation, man. Okay. But at the end of the day, we know the elites need a crash to bring in this new world order. Okay. So the Lord got them, okay, in the spirit of continuing on this path, but they walked into a snare. You see, they still don't understand that they walked into a snare. So let's just type in price of oil of the day, and you just see it go up and down. It'd be something good to check, because that's the driver, okay, of the economy. Okay, it is oil, man. So let's go from there. I got another video I want to get into. And then Iran, they was saying, look, we're gonna go to 200 a barrel. All right, it's gonna be catastrophic, man. Okay, so let's go. Let's go here because he sums up what's the deal with this petrodollar. All right, which we know the crash of the petrodollar is the crash of the global economy. Okay, it's not going to switch from the dollar to the yuan. Okay, I said the yuan is just going to be a tool to crash the dollar, which is to crash the whole thing. Okay, and Americans are going to feel it the most. Okay, because they benefited the most from this world reserve currency. And on the flip side, they're going to feel it the most when this currency, okay, collapse, man. Okay. So let's play this. And the brother can post it in Job 4 and 8. Bible shot.
2 weeks into this conflict, Iran delivered its most striking move yet. It wasn't a missile, a drone, or any conventional weapon. Instead, it was a single sentence from a senior Iranian official to CNN on a Saturday morning. Iran would allow oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, but only if the payments were made in Chinese yuan, not dollars. Just 4 words, yuan only. But they carry more impact than any explosion or strike over the past 14 days. This isn't a military move. Has placed the United States at the center of the global economy for half a century. Today, we'll unpack what this statement really means, why it's far more significant than anything you've seen on TV, and what could happen globally if this approach spreads. When people hear petrodollar, many tune out. It sounds technical, abstract, or like something discussed in boardrooms far from the battlefield. But here's the truth. The petrodollar system is why America can project military power across the world. It's why the US can run deficits that would sink almost any other nation. Despite trillions spent on wars, debt, and global operations, the dollar remains the currency every country needs to hold. Disrupt or seriously weaken that system, and the financial bedrock of American power begins to shake. And with this announcement, Iran just hurled a stone at that foundation. To see why this matters, we need to go back to 1971. Before then, every dollar was tied to gold. Each note in circulation could at least theoretically be exchanged for gold stored in US vaults. Nations trusted the dollar because of that guarantee. But when President Richard Nixon ended the gold standard, the dollar faced a question it had never encountered: why should anyone trust it? The answer came from the Middle East. In 1974, the United States made a deal with Saudi Arabia. The kingdom agreed to price all its oil sales in US dollars. In exchange, America promised military protection. OPEC followed suit, nation by nation, and the world oil market became dollar denominated. The result was extraordinary. Suddenly, every country that needed oil, which was every country, had to hold US dollars. Japan needed dollars, China needed dollars, India, Germany, Brazil, all industrial nations had to maintain dollar reserves to keep their energy flowing. This arrangement created a permanent structural demand for the US dollar. That demand allowed America to borrow without limits, spend endlessly, and maintain a global military presence that no other country could match. The petrodollar is far more than an economic deal. It's the backbone of American global power. And for 52 years, it has endured because every attempt to challenge it has been crushed. Iran is not the first to test this system. In 2000, Saddam Hussein tried moving Iraq's oil sales from dollars to euros. 3 years later, the US invaded and Iraq's oil returned to dollar pricing. Muammar Gaddafi suggested a gold-backed pan-African currency for oil trade. In 2011, NATO intervened in Libya. Gaddafi was killed and the plan died with him. Venezuela, under Nicolas Maduro, pushed oil trade outside the dollar and strengthened ties with China. In January 2026, the US moved against him as well. Analysts call this pattern the petrodollar war theory. The idea that countries challenging dollar-based oil pricing face consequences far beyond normal diplomacy. Now, Iran, a country the US has been bombing for 14 days, has announced it will reopen the Strait of Hormuz, but only under conditions that bypass the dollar entirely. This is deliberate. A senior Iranian official told CNN that Iran is considering allowing a limited number of oil tankers to transit the strait if the payments are made in Chinese yuan. Notice what this means. Iran isn't just reopening Hormuz. It's reopening it on new financial terms, terms that exclude the dollar, favor China, and set a precedent never seen in the 52-year history of the petrodollar system. The Revolutionary Guard Navy has already started issuing what analysts call IRGC certificates, permits allowing ships to pass. Iran controls the valve, and now it controls which currency you must use to open it. For China, this is huge. Beijing has spent years trying to expand the yuan's role in global oil trade through yuan-denominated futures on the Shanghai Exchange, swap lines with dozens of countries and other measures. All of it has been building toward a moment like this, a major oil choke point operating in yuan, not dollars, with Hormuz partially closed and oil above $100 a barrel. Countries that rely on that oil face a tough choice. Wait for the...
So now, Iran is in the position, to where they're offering, you got to check in with them. You got to check in Iran when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, get anything through. So they'll posture themselves, against the West. You see, no one has ever made it this far, with challenging the dollar, in this type of way, and it's forcing a crash. It's going to force a crash, man. This is going to force a complete collapse, of the dollar. So it's interesting to start, what I've been looking for is seeing any nations beginning to buy oil in yuan, which a few nations have. A few of these Asian nations have began to deal with this yuan to get their tankers through the strait. So the main thing is what Europe is going to do. To see what Europe is going to do is Europe going to begin, dealing with the yuan. It's going to be interesting, man, to see what all nations, and that's going to be looked as an ultimate betrayal, okay, to the west and the dollar, man. So it's getting interesting, man. Prophecy is getting real interesting these times. Okay, so let's play this some more. But he's running it down. All right, and as you see, all these wars, okay, that we've been told was, weapons of mass destruction, war on terror, war on this, and humanitarian, and the dictator, and this and that. It's been to protect, all right, the dollar, which is the spine of American global power, is because they had this unlimited access of wealth. They can just print wealth out of nothing. They don't have to produce it. They can just print it because there's a demand for the dollar, okay, to get the oil. See, the demand is for the oil, okay? But the devil made oil only accessible, okay, from the Persian Gulf, which supplies most of the world's, okay, oil, to these industrial, all right, nations like India, China, okay, these major powerhouse, these major manufacturing and industrial nations. Okay, a lot of their oil comes through the Straits. So, in order to manufacture, well, you had to go through the dollar. Okay, because the demand is for the oil, but this devil pegged the oil. All right, pegged the dollar to the oil. So the demand of oil was linked directly to the demand of the dollar, which kept the dollar so dominant for so long. Okay, so we're seeing them beginning to unpeg the dollar from the oil, which is going to collapse everything. All right. So we're going to see. Let's let this play some more.
U.S. to reopen the strait on dollar terms or quietly accept Iran's yuan condition and keep their oil flowing. Some are already deciding. India has received assurances from Iran's ambassador for safe passage and is weighing yuan payments to secure energy. Turkey faces the same calculation. Gulf states are diverting oil through alternative pipelines, but those pipelines max out at about 2.6 million barrels per day, while Hormuz normally carries 20 million. That leaves a daily deficit of roughly 12 million barrels. That deficit gives Iran enormous leverage. Every week, Hormuz remains partially closed. Countries across Asia feel the squeeze, and the yuan alternative grows more attractive. Meanwhile, China is already buying 90% of Iran's oil through shadow networks via Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam to bypass sanctions. The financial framework for yuan-denominated Iranian oil is already in place. Iran isn't proposing something brand new. It's making something that has long operated in the shadows into an open, large-scale system through the world's most vital waterway. So what does this mean for America? The short answer, the US cannot bomb its way out of this problem. Airstrikes can destroy facilities, eliminate generals, or flatten infrastructure, but they cannot stop China from buying oil in Iran. They cannot prevent India from quietly weighing financial choices. And once a precedent is set in global energy markets, it cannot simply be erased. The dollar's dominance in oil trade isn't upheld by aircraft carriers alone. It's reinforced by habit, trust, and the lack of a viable alternative. Iran, working closely with China, is now actively creating that alternative, not by defeating the US militarily, but by offering the world a solution that makes sense when the Strait of Hormuz is partially closed and energy is urgently needed. Oil prices are already up 47% in just 15 days. Brent crude has reached highs not seen since the worst moments of the 2022 Ukraine crisis. Each day, prices remain elevated, and each day, tankers wait outside the strait. Governments face mounting pressure to find a workable solution. And right now, Iran is the only actor offering one on its own terms in yuan. Here's why this moment is historically significant. For 52 years, the petrodollar system survived every challenge because the challengers were isolated. Saddam was alone, Gaddafi was alone, Maduro was alone. None of them had the backing of the world's second largest economy. None controlled a choke point carrying 20% of the world's oil. Iran has both. China isn't going to invade to stop this. Instead, it will quietly support it. Every yuan-denominated oil transaction through Hormuz is a data point, proof that oil trade can work without. And once a precedent like that exists, it tends to become permanent. Washington understands this perfectly. Rebuilding a military is possible. Rebuilding a monetary system once the world doubts your currency is far harder. Trump's war strategy focused on strength. showing that the US could not be challenged, restoring deterrence. But in this scenario, America could win every military battle and still lose something far more vital: the quiet structural authority that comes from being the country whose currency the world cannot operate without. That authority has never been seriously threatened until now. Not with China supporting an alternative, not with 20 million barrels a day held hostage by a country offering a new system. 52 years ago, a deal between Washington and Riyadh created the financial foundation of American global power. Today, in the narrow waters between Iran and Oman, that foundation is quietly being dismantled. Whether the dollar survives this crisis could shape global economics for the next 50 years, far more than any missile or drone over Tehran. Think about that.
Yep. That's what we at. And that's what we at. So we know, all right, that these elites need a crash to do what they want to do. All right. And we know that they have to make this MOTB mandatory according to Revelation 13 and 16 prophecy, man. See, prophecy lets us know what has to be done. It ain't an option will the dollar survive. No, it's over. Okay? Because these elites have to usher in a new way. Okay? Let's get a couple of these precepts you brothers got. And then I got this from Scott, man. All right. Scott been spazzing out lately, man. He hate them small hats, man. The hatred for small hats is through the roof. Okay. This is the brother warriors of Yahweh Shah 144 said, even as I have seen, they that plow iniquity, and so wickedness reap the same. So America has weaponized, its dollar, against all these nations created poverty. Okay. These sanctions, man, they start sanctions kill people, man. Okay, sanctions. All right, people starve to death off sanctions, man. The way the American has weaponized his dollar. Okay, that's why you had Iran, even considering wanting to talk to America to try to get some of those sanctions off, man. Because sanctions, without that dollar, if you don't have that dollar in circulation amongst your currency, man, it's hard to operate. Okay, so these devils they weaponize, their status, the status of their currency being world reserve. Okay, and the demand for their currency, these devils weaponized it, and people died, man. So that's coming back. The Lord is allowing all that to come back, man. All that wickedness, okay, that Esau established, okay, so all that death due to the devil weaponizing his currency, okay, to forward his agenda in every government in the world, man. Okay, that's finna come back. All this finna come back to America because it's gonna hurt the worst in America when the economy collapse, man. Because America's at the top. Okay, American currency is the top currency. So when the whole thing collapse, man, it's gonna hurt here the worst because this gonna be the biggest fall. Okay, it's like the brother put in the NLT says Job 4 and 8. This the brother you call Hope for 144 said, my experience shows that those who plant trouble and cultivate evil will harvest the same. And this is all America has done throughout the earth. Okay, is cultivate, all right, evil. Okay, plant evil and wickedness all throughout the world. All right, let me see. See if Google give us something. Let's see how many people. So yeah, let's go here real quick as we say. Let's go into the wickedness that America has sown. You know, so it makes sense, man, that the Lord, hey, we serve a just power. You know, so America is finna suffer economic hardship like no other. All right, because America has been the cause, okay, of economic hardship all throughout the earth. It says how many people have died because of U.S. sanctions, and it says a 2025 study published in the Lancet Global Health estimated that unilateral sanctions, primarily imposed by the United States and its allies, are associated with a staggering death toll, with figures reaching into the millions over several decades. Okay, key findings recorded the mortality impact of U.S. all right and allied sanctions include total deaths from 1970 to 2021. Research led by economists Francis Rodriguez, all right, Silvio Reading, and Mark Westbrook estimate that the unilateral sanctions, okay, imposed by U.S. and EU since 1970 are associated with 38 million deaths off of sanctions. 38 million deaths. The study estimates that these unilateral sanctions cause 560,000 deaths annually worldwide, a mortality rate compared to that of a direct armed conflict. Okay, in 2021 alone, sanctions were estimated to have resulted in over 800,000 deaths, man. This in a year. Okay, so tens of millions of people have died just off of sanctions, man. Okay, now America is being sanctioned. Okay, and it's ironic that this America is being sanctioned by the most sanctioned country in the world, which is Iran. Man, so yeah, man, that's gonna come back to American shores, man. Okay, yep, just like the brother put, this the brother GMS Jacob. All right, will prevail. Psalm 7 and 15. It says he made a pit and digged it, and is fallen into the ditch which he made. Okay, so this devil created this wicked economy, this wicked system of money, confusion, complex, is wicked, it's oppressive. Okay, and these devils gonna fall into all these pits which they made for everyone else. Okay, even this war. Okay, because Esau he created he started the precedent of nuclear war by dropping atomic bombs. Okay, so he set that precedent in the earth. Okay, this type of weaponry being introduced to the battlefield. So now he got to deal with it. You see, that's going to come back on him. All right, this is why Psalm 7 and 16 said, "His mischief shall return upon his own head, and his violent dealings shall come down upon his own pate." Okay, so the very weapons, okay, that this man created, and he's the only one that's using. Well, those same weapons are going to end this man's kingdom, along with Yahushua and the chariots, man. Okay, he's going to end this man's rulership. Okay, going to destroy his infrastructure. You see, because this is just the beginning of these nations. Okay, destroying each other's infrastructure, man. Okay, it's gonna get worse and worse. Okay, so let's go here. All right, I'm gonna let y'all hear my boy Scott, man, before we get out of here. Man, me and Scott are alright now, man. He been tapped in lately, man, because he pissed at them small hats, and he been on America ass too, man. He was reluctant to when it came to Iran, and hey, Scott been on point lately, man. I gotta give it to him. You know, his whole interview. Dang, hold on, Salaki. I don't know what the hell.
Israelis, they grew up with mama and their
I'm trying to copy the link. Let me copy the link. You know. So let's paste. Okay. All right, so that's a link. It's a good video to watch. You know, it's about an hour, 55 minutes. You know, but it's a good watch. I just want to focus on this part here. You know, because Hezbollah, you know, has been activated in the north. You know, and they have started to get these small heads of hell in the north. You know, so these devils, you know, scripture say terrors. Okay, on every side. Okay, my brother want to put that. You know, matter of fact, let's because we can go out on that. My brother want to post the book of Job, chapter 18. Let's go Job, chapter 18. All right, yep. Verse 11, 12. Yep. So let's go Job, chapter 18, verses 11 through 14. So let's play this.
Oh, they're so nice, and they know IT. They're very good. They want to create their big thing in life isn't to work on a kibbutz under the sun and get sweaty and hot and muscles. They want to sit in an air-conditioned office and do an IT startup. That's all they want to do. I want to do an IT startup, because what that means is you do nothing, get all the money, because that's what the Israelis are today. They don't work. They're lazy. And so all these little mama boys now are going to be moving towards Lebanon. But when they take off their helmet, there's going to be little Mishva or whatever the fuck their girlfriend name is. And they're going to be looking at her and go, oh, mama and my girlfriend. Oh, I miss them. They're thinking the wrong thing. Hezbollah, meanwhile, is down there, you know, pooping in a bag, burying it, pissing in a cup, burying it, because they're ready. They're not moving. And here they come, and Hezbollah's going to close one and kill them. Hezbollah is sit there and go, oh, no, you know, Fatima. Forget Fatima. Hezbollah's in the business of killing Israelis. And business is good right now. And the Israelis are going to come in, these little mama boys, and are going up against real men who are in killing mode because they have no choice. Israel and the United States have made this existential. If they defeat Iran, that's the end of Hezbollah. So Hezbollah is fighting literally for their existence. And the Israelis don't know what they're fighting for. They just know that when they go into Lebanon, they get chewed up and they start to hesitate. And when you hesitate in combat, you're dead. Mobilize every Israeli and send them to Lebanon. And then we won't have to worry about Israel anymore. Hezbollah's doing God's work right now because they are excising the cancer. You know, Hezbollah wasn't defeated. Everybody's, oh, they're defeated. They went dormant. Their screen went into, you know, silent mode, went black. But the computer's still there with a hard drive and a CPU and all that kind of stuff. And now they've shook it, the screen's up and running, and the computer's working like a champ. And the Israelis are just getting slaughtered. They're not very good. They have some special forces guys that are good, but what the Israelis are really good at is flying airplanes and dropping bombs and blowing things up. But as Iran showed, you got to blow things up of significance. In Beirut, what's happened is they've run out of significant things to blow up, so now they're back to the Dahua doctrine, holding the population collectively accountable. It's war criminal stuff. Of course, that's what the United States is doing. Pete Hegseth hasn't quite formally announced it that way, but we're in the mode right now of killing Iranian civilians. We are literally shifting over to civilian targets because our goal now is to punish the Iranian people for not rising up and taking down the regime. War criminal activity. So the United States and Israel have self-defined as the worst possible nations in the world today. We're the leading practitioners of war crimes in the world today. And Hezbollah is doing God's work. And I know as an American, I'm not supposed to say this, but since Hezbollah is not formally at war with the United States, I feel comfortable. I want Hezbollah to defeat Israel. I want them to defeat Israel in the most comprehensive way possible so that Israel is lethally damaged. And I want Iran to help them. I want Israel gone. Israel got us in this war. The American people understand that this is not an American war. Donald Trump sold us out for Israel. Pete Hegseth sold us out for Israel. Marco Rubio sold us out for Israel. Everybody in the White House, everybody associated with the Trump administration sold America down the road on behalf of Israel. Ted Cruz did that. Mike Huckabee did that. Every one of them. And we need to know that. We need to know that when we pay the higher gas price, this is because of Israel. Everything is because of Israel. This isn't anti-Semitic. I'm not saying it's because of the Jews. I'm saying it's because of Israel, the Zionist entity called Israel, this parasitic entity that's attached itself to the United States and is sucking the lifeblood out of the United States and the world. Israel. Israel needs to be erased. And hopefully Iran has the eraser to do it. I know Hezbollah does.
Well, so you want to see them small heads gone, and that's a sentiment in the world, man. Scott said Hezbollah doing God's work. You see, and he ain't been much of the religious type, man. But it was Hezbollah doing God's work, man. Okay, because of the earth is looking at these small heads as the problem, man. These Edomites all together are a problem. Okay, but at the forefront, all right, the instigator, okay, of these Edomites is these small heads, man. Okay, and the Lord has it going bad for these devils on every side, man. Okay, they're losing on all fronts. So let's play this. This is the book of Job, chapter 18, verse 11. This is the brother GMS all in. All right, the brother Anah, Shalom, Makia, Bashima Shai, Rakatah. It says, terror shall make him afraid on every side and shall drive him to his feet. Okay, because this devil, he's been driven to his feet. Because now this nigga's in the actual war. Okay. So now he's not comfortably just pushing buttons, doing airstrikes and launching missiles and aircraft carry off your coast. And see, he's not able to do that. He's used to doing that type of war, the lounge chair war. Okay, America been fighting these lounge chair war. You can just sit in the lounge chair, fly drones. Okay, air superiority. He's used to aircraft carrier being able to park, where it wants. Okay, and there's another thing too, man. They say that aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, which I don't know if I played that part when it talked about the mutiny. I think he was gonna go into it. Okay, those aircraft carriers, they were fleeing. You had one that was 350 miles, 350 kilometers off the coast of Iran. Okay, but when it got hit, it had to fall back like 1,100 kilometers, man. Okay, they're saying the sailors are having to sleep on the floor. Okay, talking about the housing, because of these fires on the deck, so certain housing, sailors are pissed. Okay, yeah, like Scott said, these mama boys. Okay, nigga thinking about Kimberly, You see, the American military ain't meant to take no damage, man. Okay, the American military works great when when there's no damage, when there's no pain being inflicted on them. But American military ain't meant to take no affliction. Okay, they got all this high tech weaponry and all this shit, but it's meant for offense. Okay, and the men that America produce, okay, they're not meant to take any type of damage or pain or affliction, man. Nigga trying to get home to Kimberly, Well, see, these in the West, they've been under America tyranny for so long, they don't have nothing to lose. Those men of the East, those men of the East, they have nothing to lose. Especially Iran, they've been the most sanctioned country ever. Okay, so they have nothing to lose. Okay, you done killed all these different leaders and scientists. You killed the supreme leader. They have nothing to lose. Okay, you Americans, you want to get back, okay, to your man cave, all right, and watch the college football. See, Iran don't give a damn about no college football, man. Okay, another thing that you Americans hold dearly, man. Them folks don't care about that shit over there, man. Okay, they want hats. They out there for hats now. So I think he well, y'all mentioned that was pretty much all he said. Let's continue on in this, and it says, uh, Job 18:11 said, "Terror shall make him afraid on every side, and he shall drive him to his feet." Okay, and shall drive him to his feet, man. So the Lord has the devil on his feet now. Now he's in the spirit of urgency. Okay, because he know he can't. He don't have time no more. Okay, and now he's being met with resistance, beginning with the prophets, and now, okay, nations in his kingdom is revolting against his ass, man. All right, Job 18:12, it said his strength shall be hunger bitten, and destruction shall be ready at his side. Man, yeah, he's fatigued. Okay, Esau is fatigued, all this wickedness. He's a mere mortal. See, Esau not no God, man. This nigga fatigued as hell, man. Okay, American military, these niggas fatigued, niggas complaining. Okay, niggas trying to cop a plea. Okay, you gonna have a lot of military men getting ready to just disobey orders, man. They just not gonna go. They not gonna report. Okay, he's sending them Marines over there to crash out, hope to try to invoke some type of rally around the flag moment so people can, okay, volunteer into this war, man. Okay, nah, man, you created Americans to be so comfortable and useless. Okay, the Americans ain't built for no war, man. The American people are not built for no war. Okay, especially a war 6,000 miles away. Okay, so let's keep reading. It says, verse 13. Okay, and it shall devour the strength of his skin, and the firstborn of death shall devour his strength. You see, so the devil, the scriptures say he will be in scrapes. And now blood is starting to pursue Esau. You see? Blood is starting to pursue this man. Now he's the target. Okay? Because these American soldiers in their region, they're beginning to catch hell over there, man. And these Iranian proxies are being activated in these areas where these bases are being hit. Okay? And these American military personnel, okay, are being hunted, man. Certain of these are, American commanders and CIA and Mossad. All right, they trying to duck off in these hotels, and them hotels being hit because there's blood pursuing that man. That's gonna continue to increase. Destruction is at his side, man. Okay, and it's gonna lead all the way up to the missiles and the chariots, man. Verse 14 says, "His confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle," and we see, all right, like I say, these Edomites resigning, and even that nigga Joe Kent, that nigga ain't no saint. Okay, nigga, they just losing. He see this L on the way. Okay, and he see it's finna get way worse. So now he want to be a whistleblower and resign. Nah, the nigga just losing. Because the niggas had all this confidence against Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, Venezuela. Niggas had all the confidence. Okay? But now, as you see, their limitations are being exposed in every area, man. Esau seeing that he's limited in every area, man. And now their confidence ain't there like it used to be, man. Okay? And what it's going to do, it shall bring him to the king of terrors, man, which is Yahweh Shai. Because that's who's going to be sent back. That's who the devil, that's the last stage. Okay? Because right now, America it's just going to get worse and worse. As these nations start to begin to pile on top of the empire. Okay? Then you got to deal with Yahweh Shai at the end of all of it, man. Okay? And he's coming to finalize, okay, the judgment. of this third world war. He's come to put an end to it. Okay, with fire, man. Okay, with power from another realm. You see? So yeah. So let's go let's go here, and we end it here. You know, is the point. So let's end this with the brother Uriah Sha'ala. Psalms 50 and 21 said, "These things hast thou done, and I kept silence. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one of thyself, but I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes." Okay? So the elect is being set in order, and the devil is being reproved on the global stage. Okay? So Esau, he's done. You know, he don't reach the end. He don't peaked out. Okay, his power is waning, his influence is waning, decreasing, diminishing. Okay, he washed up. Okay, the Edomite Empire is washed up, man. Okay, and the Lord is getting ready to sweep this place away with destruction. Okay, and the elect is being set in order, man. So everything he's doing has just brought him to the king of terrors, man, where he's just going to be turned into powder. All his military might, okay, all his boasting and the digital public infrastructure and the new world order infrastructure, all of it's going to be turned to powder, man. Okay, so Lord will, all right, you brothers and you sisters edified once again. I'm going to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Bakakodash, and double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to all his younger brothers. And peace and blessings, salutations, and hopefully, shalom.